But we can't get those things on our own. Raul helped build this organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the bogidas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio, is your strength.
In sum, the region is less pressurized and more integrated, with countries increasingly setting aside both old and more recent disagreements to work on practical initiatives in energy, technology, infrastructure, and more. We are clear-eyed that the region remains full of challenges and threats. From Iran, this is why the President believes there is no substitute for the power of face-to-face diplomacy. We were clear-eyed going in when we made this decision that it was possible that the Taliban would end up in control of Afghanistan. We were clear-eyed about that. Now, as the President said in his remarks yesterday, we did not anticipate that it would happen at this speed, though we were planning for these potential contingencies.
Talk about the importance of personal diplomacy as part of the reason for going. There are risks for the president politically to go to Saudi Arabia with an expectation among the public that maybe there will be a specific deliverable when it comes to gas prices and so forth and supply. What is the burden on the president to come home with something in that category?
Well, it's up to you to characterize things like burdens on the president. What I can say is what the president intends to do. He intends to use every tool in his toolbox to try to create adequate global energy supplies and to bring the price of gas down for American working families at the pump. And that will be measured over time. Can we get that price down and can we keep it down? And I don't think it's going to be measured on Friday or Saturday of this week. I think it will be measured over the weeks and months to come. And there we will sustain intensive engagement in our effort to ensure that at the end of the day, we're having a positive impact on the price of oil and thereby a positive impact on the price of gas.
But the Saudis and UAE have indicated that their capacity to increase production is limited. So what does the administration view as possible as far as an output increase from those countries on this trip if that comes up?
And we will see what results come from that. Ultimately, that will be up to the OPEC countries to determine. And so I don't have anything to say from this podium right now because those discussions are best confined behind closed doors. But we do believe there is a capacity for further steps that could be taken, and we will see how that unfolds as we go.
Just to follow up on George's question, does the president believe right now that Saudi Arabia is pumping enough oil to bring gas prices down?
So I'm not going to get into a specific characterization on what constitutes enough. What I will say is the president believes that the price of gas is too high and that we need to do more with respect to global energy supplies. And he will take every step in his power, both here at home and in terms of his diplomatic engagement in the world, to try to bring that about.
You know, during the campaign, the president said Saudi should pay a price. He referred to them as making them a pariah state. When it comes right down to it, isn't this trip proof that strategic interests, including oil and gas, when it comes right down to it, are always going to override something like human rights?
So we are trying to do multiple things all at once, advance along a number of different tracks. One of those tracks is, in fact, ending the blank check policy. And as I said before, the basic thrust and purpose of our policy with respect to Saudi Arabia has been to recalibrate the relationship, but not rupture it. We have stayed true to that from the beginning of this administration.
CJ, two questions. One, will the president be photographed shaking hands with the Crown Prince or meeting with him while in Saudi?
The president will have the opportunity to have a bilateral program that will involve the king, the Crown Prince, other ministers of the Saudi government, and in terms of the precise modalities, I'll leave that to the folks who are actually organizing the trip.
And as you've been planning this trip, has the president expressed any regret for the language that he used to describe Saudi Arabia on the campaign trail?
The president has not expressed regret about his statements. What the president has been focused on is his view that the United States has important interests to advance and protect, including in partnership with Saudi Arabia. And among other things, we have to work on for energy and food security and for many other things. And I'll just give you one example before I leave, which is an example that I think is pretty newsworthy and noteworthy. And that is that our information indicates that the Iranian government is preparing to provide Russia with up to several hundred UAVs, including weapons-capable UAVs, on an expedited timeline. Our information further indicates that Iran is preparing to train Russian forces to use these UAVs, with initial training sessions slated to begin as soon as early July. It's unclear whether Iran has delivered any of these UAVs to Russia already, but this is just one example of how Russia is looking to countries like Iran for capabilities.
Well, today, Brazil's President Bolsonaro said that a deal with Russia is close to buy much cheaper oil from Moscow, and other countries from the BRICS are doing the same. So does this undermine the Western sanctions, the White House effort to impose costs at Russia? And what is the White House reaction to that?
The G7 leaders discussed imposing a price cap on Russian oil in order to have it be transferred on ships carrying Western insurance. A price cap meaning that countries would have to agree to pay less for Russian oil than what the global market price is. If it turns out that countries are imposing their own price cap and it is a substantial denial of revenue to Russia in terms of their ability to sell oil, that is not the failure of sanctions. That's actually the success of economic pressure because it is driving down revenues for Moscow.